So there's this trend that's been going around on TikTok called the Evil Art Style Challenge, where you essentially have to draw in a style that's opposite of the one you usually draw in. And it actually sounded like a really fun challenge, so today I decided to give it a try. Okay, so before I get into my evil style, I need to break down my normal one. So the style I typically draw in is sort of an amalgamation of Japanese and Western animation with a dot of realism and then rendered with some soft shading. So let's break it down into its base traits. At face value, my style has colored line art with significant variety in the line weight. The body proportions are mostly realistic. The face is reminiscent of both Western and Japanese anime. The hair is fluffy and broken down into more simple shapes. The color and shading are soft, and I'm usually pretty heavy-handed with the blush. So going off of that, my evil style would be the opposite. So it would have your standard black line art with a consistent line weight. The body proportions would be more on the exaggerated side, and the face should be simplified while the hair will be pretty detailed. And then it will be cel-shaded and there will be little to no blush. So hopping right into it, the character I decided to draw for this challenge was Mari, the MC of my webcomic Blank Canvas. Not only did I just feel like I wanted to draw her, but I also figured that drawing a character I'm familiar with would help ease some stress for this challenge, because I saw a bunch of people on TikTok mentioning how hard and uncomfortable this challenge was for them, so it just felt like a good idea to stick close to home here. But anyway, on to the drawing. I decided it would be cool to have both of the styles on one canvas, and then frame it in a way that they're looking at and mirroring one another. So I went ahead and refined a simple pose to use, and then copied it over to the other side of the canvas, before hopping into the easy part of this challenge. Drawing in the style I'm comfortable with, aka my normal style. As you can guess, this part was pretty straightforward because I just drew what I usually do. And honestly, this process was really relaxing too. There's just something so nice about sitting down to draw a character that you know you enjoy drawing, so I'm always glad when I get to do so. And I was especially glad to have this moment of relaxation, because next up was the hard part, the quote-unquote evil art style. So I looked at the list of traits I made, and I decided the best place to start was with the proportions. As you can see in my drawing to the left, as far as body proportions go, I'm leaning more on realism than anime. So I decided that for my evil style, I would lean mostly into your standard anime proportions. So I made her head bigger and then her frame smaller. And following that trend, I wanted to make her eyes bigger too. So I started to adjust the face. I still wasn't entirely sure where I wanted to go with it, but I did know that I wanted it simplified. So I literally just made the eyes larger and simpler and then animeified the rest of the face. Which brought me to my next step, the evil styled hair. As I said before, I typically draw pretty fluffy hair that's simplified into sections and shapes. So for this part, I had to make the hair a little less fluffy and a lot more detailed. And might I just say that drawing not fluffy hair on a character that I know to have very wavy, nearly curly hair was actually really hard. Especially with the big anime head, the hair just looked really voluminous no matter what I did. So I just did the best with what I had and ended up where I ended up. On the positive side though, this part was actually pretty nostalgic for me because how I drew her hair in the evil style is pretty similar to how I used to draw hair just a few years ago. So I guess it was kind of like a mini trip down memory lane while I was drawing, and it actually made me kind of happy. Anyway, the next portion is back to comfort because I was doing the line art for my normal style, and again, really relaxing. I honestly love that I was kind of just bouncing back and forth between the challenge and what I'm comfortable drawing, because it really just breaks it all up and makes the challenge a lot more digestible. Like, the whole experience so far with this challenge has been very leisurely, and I'm not sure if that's because I just don't find it that challenging, or maybe it's just the fact I'm taking these mini breaks and not doing the challenge all in one go. But either way, I'm glad that this ended up being such an enjoyable experience. Anyway, I got a bit off track there. So after I finished line art and the base colors for my style, I went and did the same for my evil style. Oddly enough though, I found that lining the evil drawing was easily the hardest part of this entire challenge. And that's mostly because I kept applying pressure subconsciously to add weight to my lines, but then since my brush didn't have a taper, it would just make my line all unstable and wiggly, so I'd have to go in and redo it, and it actually ended up being so time consuming because I just kept doing it for some reason. I don't know why. But eventually I did get there and I managed to finish up the line work. It's a bit sloppy since I'm not used to this kind of lining, but I'm still happy with it. And most of the mistakes were actually buried after I started shading and stuff, so it all worked out in the end. Aside from the line art though, I also needed this piece to have harsher, more saturated colors to contrast the softer tones I typically draw with. So I color picked from the original and quite literally just bumped up the saturation to make them pop more. And funny enough, it just made the evil style look like the animator-friendly reboot version of my character, which was honestly kind of incredible, so I'll take it. Anyway, now we once again ease back into my comfort zone, shading in my style. After the struggle I had with the evil line art, this was a much welcome reprieve. I don't really have much to say other than that I enjoyed shading this. So let's just skip to me finishing up this piece, shall we? The last part went pretty fast, because all I had to do for rendering on the evil drawing was some simple cell shading. So I made myself a multiply layer, and I got to work wrapping everything up. And once I was done with that, I was done with this challenge. So here is what my evil art style looks like compared to my normal one. To summarize, in contrast to the colored, weighted lines, realistic proportions, stylized face, simple fluffy hair with some soft colors and shading found in my normal style, we've got thin black line art with consistent line weight, anime-esque proportions, a simplified face, slightly flatter but extra detailed hair, and some bolder colors and shading, which means that I have successfully finished the challenge. I had a lot of fun with this. I was kind of nervous going in because of all the people on TikTok saying it was so hard, but it was great. I've never actually taken the time to dissect my art style before, so this was a really cool exercise for me. But anyway, with that said, I'm gonna wrap this up here. So thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you in the next video. Bye bye!